Hello everyone. So in this session, we will take up some numerical examples using root locus, and then we will see how root locus can be used for gain compensation. That means how can we utilize root locus to design an appropriate gain for a given closed loop system to meet the desired specifications. Okay. So, so before we move into the other problems, let us take up briefly recap what is root locus. Okay, so root locus is nothing but a graphical representation of closed loop poles as the gain case varied from 0 to infinity. Okay, how the closed loop poles move as gain case varied from 0 to infinity. Okay, so this is a closed loop configuration shown here. So KGS is the forward path transfer function. This is the forward path transfer function, and H of S is the feedback path transfer function. The product of those two, KGS into HS, is called open loop transfer function. Okay, so if you find the overall closed loop transfer function, you will get KGS divided by 1 plus KGS HS. Okay, so open loop poles are constant and independent of the system gain, whereas the closed loop poles are dependent on the system gain K. As K changes, the closed loop poles will change. Okay, so what's the characteristic polynomial? Characteristic polynomial is the denominator of the closed loop transfer function, C of S by R of S. That means 1 plus KGS HS. That is the characteristic polynomial. When you equate that to 0, you get what is characteristic equation. Okay, so it is obvious from this, KGS HS must be equal to minus 1. Okay, KGS HS equal to minus 1. S is a complex number. KGS HS is another complex function which has some magnitude and some angle. So if you equate the angle part, you will get angle KGS HS equal to plus or minus 180 into 2n plus 1. This is called the angle condition. Okay, and how can you find the magnitude at that point? Using what is called the magnitude condition. So I want to check whether a point S is equal to S1 in the S plane is a closed loop pole or is on root locus or not. What I have to do, I have to first find what is the total net angle at S is equal to S1. If that is an odd multiple of 180 degree, then S equal to S1 is a closed loop pole. So what will be the gain at that point? You can find that from the magnitude condition. How? K will be 1 divided by mod GSHS at S equals S1. Okay, so in this way you can calculate what is the corresponding gain K value at that particular closed loop pole. Okay, so based on these two conditions, certain rules have been framed for drawing root locus. Now we will take up one or two examples, numerical examples. Assume that in the first example you are given with G of S equals K by S. Okay, your open loop plant is given, H of S is 1. Okay, it's a unity feedback system, right? So it is a unity feedback system. That means H of S is 1. So what will be the open loop plant? GSHS. That means K by S, which has a pole at origin 0. So open loop pole is at S equal to 0. It is fixed. Okay. Now what is the closed loop transfer function? G divided by 1 plus GH. G divided by 1 plus GH. Okay. So you will get K divided by S plus K. Where is the closed loop pole at S is equal to minus K. So S equal to 0, closed loop pole is at 0. S equal to 1, S equal to, K equal to 0, your closed loop pole is at 0. K equal to 1, closed loop pole is at minus 1. K equal to infinity, your closed loop pole is at minus infinity. Okay. So how will be the root locus? It will be along the entire negative real axis. Okay. So here is the open loop pole, and this is the root locus. It tends to minus infinity. Okay, root locus starts at open loop poles and ends at open loop 0. Okay, now next case, G of S is equal to K divided by S into S plus 2. I am adding one more pole to the open loop system. Okay, H of S is 1. So what is the open loop? Where are the open loop poles? Open loop poles are at s equals 0 and s equals -2. Okay. And where are the open loop zeros? They are at infinity. Okay. Now, what will be the root locus for this case? Sigma g omega. Okay, so we will mark the open loop poles first because we know root locus starts from open loop pole. One is at 0 and one is at -2. Okay, so if you apply that rule of finding root locus on the real axis, you will see that this segment from 0 to -2 is a part of root locus. One starts from here, one starts from here. Okay, so there will be a breakaway point. Okay, as k varies, it keeps on moving, and at a particular value of gain k, it will meet, right? And then it will split apart. So that is called the breakaway point. So if you follow the rules, now number of asymptotes. How many asymptotes? P minus z. What is P? P is 2 because we have two finite poles, and Z is 0 because we do not have finite zeros. 2 minus 0, 2. Centroid. What is centroid? The meeting point of asymptotes with the real axis. Centroid. Sigma P minus sigma Z divided by P minus Z. That you substitute and solve, you will get -1. So my centroid is at -1. Maybe somewhere here, -1. That is centroid, right? What next? Now we have to calculate what's the angle of asymptotes. Okay, how to calculate angle of asymptotes? Angle of asymptotes. How to find angle of asymptotes? Plus minus 180 into 2n plus 1 divided by p minus n. N can vary from 0, 1, 2, etc. Yeah. So now you put n equal to 0. What will you get? And p minus z is 2. So what will you get? The angle of asymptotes as plus 90 and minus 90. Okay. So at centroid -1, we have two asymptotes. One is at plus 90 and one is at minus 90. Plus 90. This is minus 90. Okay. This is the asymptote, right? Now what next? So they will come hit at a point. That point is called the breakaway point. How to find the breakaway point? You have to first find the Cap's equation. What is Cap's equation? 1 plus GSH is equal to 0. If you do that, you will get S into S plus 2 plus K equal to 0. So, or what is K from this? K will be minus S into S plus 2. So what you can find? dk by d is equal to 0. Okay, you will get S as -1. Okay, so in this case, our centroid and breakaway point happens to be at the same point. S equal to -1. -1. Okay, so this is -1 is both. -1 happen to be a breakaway point as well as centroid. Okay, always it need not be necessarily the same point. Right now, what next? It is a freehand sketch. Okay, because there will be no imaginary axis crossing. Okay, one goes to -90 and one goes to +90, like this. Freehand sketch. Okay, so this will complete root locus for the given system. Right now, let me add one more code and see what is the effect on root locus. So GSHS is equal to K divided by S into S plus 2 into S plus 5. Okay, S plus 2 into S plus 5. So where are the open loop poles? Open loop poles are at S equal to 0, -2 and -5. Okay, so if you draw the S plane, this is sigma, this is g omega. Where are the open loop poles? The open loop poles are at S equals 0, -2 and -5. Okay, so this will be a part of root locus because wherever in this interval, wherever I put my test point, always to the right side, I have one number of real poles. So one will start from here, another one will start from here. Right? So it's obvious there will be a breakaway point. And not only that, additionally, there will be one more branch of root locus from starting from -5 up to -infinity. Okay. Now, number of asymptotes. How many? P minus Z. That means 3. Centroid. How will you find? Sigma P minus sigma Z divided by P minus Z. If you do that, you will get -2.33. Okay, minus 2.33. Angle of asymptotes. How to find angle of asymptotes? How to find angle of asymptotes? Plus or minus 180 into 2n plus 1 divided by p minus z. Okay, you put n equal to 0 and 1. What will you get? Plus 60 minus 60 and plus 180 degree. Okay, so 180 degree is already here, and the third segment starting from minus 5 is already lying on minus 180 degree line. So nothing to worry about that. Now what next? Plus 60 and minus 60. Where's the centroid? It is at minus 2.33. So say minus 2.33 somewhere here. Okay. Now I have to draw plus 60 and minus 60. Okay. So this is plus 60 degree and this is minus 60. Okay. So we have drawn the asymptotes. Now what next? Breakaway point. How to find breakaway point? So Cap's equation. From the Cap's equation, what is your K? Your K will be minus S into S plus 2 into S plus 5. Okay, dk by ds equal to 0. Do that and you will get your breakaway point as at S equals minus 0.88. Okay, where is minus 0.88? Somewhere here. So minus 0.88 is maybe somewhere here. Okay, that is the breakaway point. Okay, now we have seen that the angle of asymptotes, two angle of asymptotes are at plus 60 and minus 60. That means root locus will cut the imaginary axis. So we have to next find at what frequency the root locus will cut the imaginary axis. Imaginary axis crossing. Next point. Imaginary axis crossings. How to find that? Cap's equation again. S into S plus 2 into S plus 5 plus K equal to 0. Okay. You put S equal to J omega into this. Okay. You will get a real part, imaginary part. Equate real part to 0, imaginary part to 0. Two equations, two unknowns. Which are the two unknowns? Omega and the corresponding gain K value. Okay. So if you solve that, you will get your omega as 3.16 radians per second. Okay. And corresponding gain K will be 0.0143. Okay. Now we have to mark that 3.16. Maybe here J 3.16. And this will be minus J 3.16. Okay. So this goes to infinity. And this goes to minus infinity. So this will complete the root locus. Okay, so it had three open loop poles, so three branches. So one branch will go, two branches coming from here will hit, and one will go up, one will go down. The third will be moving to the left half, starting from minus 1. Okay, one more example, last example. GSHS is equal to K divided by S into S plus 2 into S plus 4 into S plus 5. Okay, so here we have four open loop poles. Sigma omega. Okay, the poles are at 0, minus 2, minus 4, minus 5. Okay, so our root locus on the real axis, this will be a part of root locus. One starts from here, one starts from here. Okay, this will not be the interval between minus 2 and minus 4 will not be on root locus. Again, the interval between minus 4 and minus 5 will be on root locus. Okay, so there will be two breakaway points. Right now, number of asymptotes. number of asymptotes. How many? P minus Z. What is P? P is 4 and Z is 0. 4 minus 0, 4. Centroid. How will you find centroid? Sigma P minus sigma Z divided by P minus Z. If you do that calculation, you will get minus 2.75. Minus 2.75 will be your centroid. Okay. So let me mark that first. Minus 2.75 is my centroid. Okay. What next? Angle of asymptotes. Angle of asymptotes. How will you find angle of asymptotes? Plus or minus? 180 into 2n plus 1 by P minus Z. Here we have 4 asymptotes. So we need 4 angles. So you put n equals 0 and n equal to 1. Okay. N equals 0 and n equal to 1. What will you get? Plus 45 minus 45 and plus 135 and minus 135 degree. Okay. So now I have to draw the concession lines, asymptotes. At minus 2.75 plus 45 minus 45. Plus 45 minus 45. This will be minus 135 and this will be plus 135. Okay, two asymptotes I have drawn at an asymptotic angle of plus 45 minus 45 plus 135 and minus 135. What next? We have to find the breakaway point from the Capsi equation. 1 plus GS HS equal to 0. If you do that, you will get K plus S into S plus 2 into S plus 4 into S plus 5. 0. So what is K? Minus S into S plus 2 into S plus 4 into S plus 5. Okay, differentiate dk by ds equal to 0. Right? So you will get 2 points. One is minus 0.7438 and minus 4.5771. Okay, we'll get 2 breakaway points. Of course, 2 breakaway points do exist here because we have a pair of poles which are on the real axis here. One first one and the second pair. Okay, we have 2 pair of poles which are on the root locus, adjacent poles which are on root locus. So there has to be 2 breakaway points. Okay. So where is minus 0.7438? Maybe somewhere here. And minus 4.57 somewhere here. 71. Okay. Now you see the asymptotes will cut the imaginary axis. Okay. So next step is you have to find the imaginary axis crossing. Imaginary axis crossing. Imaginary axis crossings. Okay. How to find that? This is the Capsi equation. You put S equal to j omega. Okay. Equate the real part to 0, imaginary part to 0. So you will get two value. You will get your omega as 1.9069 radians per second, and the corresponding gain K as 0.008. Okay. So we will mark 1.9069 somewhere here. And here it will be minus J 1.9069. Okay. So how will be the root locus plot now? Symmetrically you have to draw. Okay. Root locus is always symmetrically about the real axis. Don't forget that. That is one imminent step. Okay. So here also it is just a smooth along the asymptote. This will be the root locus plot. Okay. So what is the conclusion from this? First case, GSHS was K by S. Okay. How was the root locus? Something like this. We had an open loop pole here. So your root locus was lying along the entire negative real axis. Okay. Now you added one more pole. GSHS equals K by S into S plus 2. How was the root locus now? It was something like this. This was the pole at origin, minus 2. One started from minus 2 and one started from 0, right? Then they met at a particular point called breakaway point and splitted apart. So this is a breakaway point. One more. GSHS equals K divided by S into S plus 2 into S plus 5. Okay. How did it look like? This is sigma g omega. We had a pole at the origin 2, one at -2 and one at -5. Okay. So how was the root locus in that case? We had one starting from -5 extending to -infinity and something like this. Okay. So you can see here in the first two cases, you could have added infinite value of gain k, theoretically speaking. Okay. Still the closed loop system would be stable. What about the third case? You cannot add infinite value of gain k, because if you increase the gain k beyond this k value, k critical, what happens? Two poles will move to the right half of the S-plane, making the closed loop system unstable. Okay. So now you have a limited value. You can apply only a k limit, a limited value of gain k. Okay. So the conclusion is that adding poles will lower the system stability. The closed loop system stability. Why? Because the root locus is being pulled to the right half of the S-plane. Okay. So once it is pulled to the right half of the S-plane, the point at which it cuts the j omega axis, they are the critical points. Because if you increase the gain k beyond that corresponding value, then two poles will be moving to the right half of the S-plane, making the system unstable. Okay. So adding poles will lower down the system stability. So what will be the effect of adding zeros? It has the opposite effect. It will pull back the root locus to the left half of the S-plane. That means stability capability will be enhanced. Okay. So adding poles will lower the system stability, and adding zeros will enhance system stability. Okay. Now we will go to gain stabilization. Okay. Gain stabilization. What do you mean by gain stabilization? Not stabilization, sorry, gain compensation. Okay, gain compensation, not stabilization. Gain compensation. Okay. Gain compensation. Okay. What do you mean by gain compensation? See, compensate means what? To compensate for some deficiency. Okay. Compensate means we have to fill in that gap. There is some deficiencies there that has to be filled in. That is what we mean by compensation. Okay. So gain compensation means we will have to adjust the gain so that we have some required specification. We can have the closed loop system meet the specification. Okay. For example, suppose, let us try this question. If GSHS is equal to 20 divided by S into S plus 2 into S plus 5. Okay. We are asked to design a feedback system. So that the closed loop system has a damping ratio of 0.5. Has a damping ratio of 0.5. Okay. So right now this has some other damping ratio. Okay, that we can calculate if we want. Okay. Right now, if you put this thing into feedback system, it has a different damping ratio. Okay. But we have to design a feedback system so that we have the desired damping ratio of 0.5. That's the question. Okay. Now before we proceed further, so we had seen second order systems, right? C of S by R of S. That was omega n square by S square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square. Okay. Zeta was our damping ratio. Fine. Zeta was our damping ratio. Right. Now, if zeta is equal to 0, you get an undamped system. Where are the poles? Poles will be on the imaginary axis. So, purely imaginary poles. Okay. Zeta between 0 and 1, then what's the damping? It is called an underdamped system. So this will be plus minus j omega n. So underdamped this thing. So what will be the characteristic of the poles? They will be complex conjugate. Complex conjugate poles. Okay. And will be of the form minus theta omega n plus minus j omega n into root of 1 minus theta square. Okay. Then is theta equal to 1. What is that called? Critical damped case. Critical damping. Poles will be real and equal. Poles are real and equal. And zeta greater than 1, we get overdamped. Poles are real but unequal. Real but unequal poles. Okay. Now we have defined different transient response specifications, right? Like peak time. What is peak time? Pi by omega n into root of 1 minus theta square. What is settling time for 2% condition? 4 divided by theta omega n. Are you following me? Settling time Ts will be 4 divided by theta omega n, right? And how do we find the overshoot? Percentage overshoot? E raised to minus pi theta by root of 1 minus theta square. Okay. So all these transient response specifications were defined, they are spelled out for a standard type 0 second order underdamped system. Okay. Second order underdamped system. Okay. Now you see here what is the order of the given system? It is a third order. Okay. So that means we have to reduce this third order system to a second order equivalent system. Okay. Or in other words, we have to find the dominant pole pair. What do you mean by dominant pole pair? Say for example, say let me take one example here. I will just draw a root locus. This example we had already seen. So along this branch we have one. Here also we have one. Okay. What do you mean by dominant pole pair? Dominant pole pair means those poles which are closer to the j omega axis. Okay. So if you consider these two poles, the third closest pole is far away. Okay. If it is far away, then you can ignore that effect. All the higher order poles can be ignored. Okay. So say for example, if you have a system like this, say g of s is equal to say a by s plus b by s plus 10 plus c by s plus 20. Okay. What is its response? Its response g of t will be a plus b e raised to minus 10t plus c e raised to minus 20t. So as t tends to infinity, what happens? These two will become 0. And the resultant response is dominated by the pole which is closer to the j omega axis. Here the pole is on the origin. Okay. So that is the meaning of dominant poles. Dominant poles are those which are closer to the j omega axis. Okay. So it means that we have to first find the dominant pole pair. Okay. Because this is a third order system. You cannot apply the transient response specifications as such to a system other than second order. Okay. Let us draw the root locus for this. Sigma j omega. Okay. Now there's an open loop pole at s is equal to 0. Then at s equal to minus 2, 1 at minus 5. Okay. So what will be the root locus shape here? One will be starting from here to minus infinity. Okay. One will start from here and another one will start from here. Right. So it will be something like this. Okay. So now we have to identify the dominant pole pair. Right. So for that we are given some condition. It should have a damping ratio of 0.5. Okay. So if you remember, how can you represent damping ratio in S-plane? They are characterized by radial lines. Okay. Radial lines represent constant damping ratio or constant percentage overshoot lines. Okay. So somewhere you can say this is your desired dominant pole. Okay. So there will be a complex conjugate pole corresponding to that. Okay. So this is the desired dominant pole, right? What are we going to do? We are trying to find an approximate equivalent second order system of this closed loop plant. Okay, so that we can have damping ratio of 0.5, because all the transient response specifications are spelled out for a standard type 0 underdamped second order system, but this closed loop system will be a third order. So we have to find its equivalent approximate second order plant. That's what we are doing. Okay, so we have chosen this as the dominant pole. This will be the complex conjugate. Now we have to calculate what's the value of the dominant closed loop pole, but we have only 0.5. So what's the dominant pole? Dominant pole is minus theta omega n plus minus j omega n into root of 1 minus theta square. Okay, damping ratio is 0.5 is given, so that means 0.5 omega n plus minus j 0.866 omega n. Okay, so the real part of this dominant pole is minus 0.5 omega n, and the imaginary part is j 0.866 omega n. Here also it is there. Okay, same is applicable because this is the complex conjugate. Okay, same thing is applicable here also. Okay, so right now we will focus only on the top complex pole, dominant pole. Okay, now that is on the root locus. So how will you check whether a point is on root locus? If the point is on root locus, the net angle at that point must be 180 degree. Correct. So now you join that particular dominant pole with all other poles. Okay, so this angle is theta 1, this is theta 2, this is theta 3. Okay, when can this dominant pole be on the root locus? The net angle at the dominant pole has to be plus or minus 180 degree. That means theta 1 plus theta 2 plus theta 3 must be equal to 180 degree. Okay, now what is theta 1 from here? Theta 1 will be 90 plus what? Tan inverse opposite side 0.5 omega n divided by adjacent side 0.866 omega n. You will get some number here because omega and omega n gets cancelled, right? Minus. Why minus sign here? Because this is the angle extended by a pole. Okay. Suppose you have a transfer function s plus zc by s plus pc. What's the net angle here? Angle due to the 0 minus angle due to pole. Okay. So poles will always extend a negative angle. That is why I have considered a negative sign here. Okay. To be more precise. What is theta 2? Theta 2 will be minus tan inverse. What? Opposite side. Opposite side is 0.866 omega n divided by what is adjacent side? 2 minus 0.5 omega n. Okay. Theta 3 minus of tan inverse. Again, opposite side minus 0.866 omega n divided by 5 minus 0.5 omega n. Okay. Substitute that here and solve. How will you solve? Using tan of a plus b. What is tan of a plus b? Tan a plus tan b divided by 1 minus tan a tan b. Tan a tan b. Okay. So if you do this simplification, you will get your omega n as 1.5 radians per second. Okay. So what will be the dominant poles? Dominant poles will be, just substitute omega n value here. Dominant poles will be at s is equal to, so omega n if you substitute here, you will get minus 0.75 plus minus j 1.299. Okay, minus 0.75 plus minus j 1.299. Right, now how can you find the gain k at that point? Using the magnitude condition. What's the magnitude condition? K equals 1 divided by mod GSHS at s equals minus 0.75 plus j 1.299. So you will get s into s plus 2 into s plus 5 by 20 at x is equal to minus 0.75 plus j 1.299. Fine. So if you do that, you will get your k as 0.6008. So What is the closed loop transfer function now? That will give damping ratio of 0.5. It will be nothing but 0.6008 divided by S plus 0.75 plus J 1.299 into S plus 0.75 minus J 1.299. So this will be the system. Okay, this will be the equivalent feedback system that will give you a damping ratio of 0.5. You can verify that in MATLAB also. Okay, so keep in mind here the main assumption is that higher order poles are far away from the dominant poles. Okay, normally if the ratio of this third pole to the dominant pole real part is 5 or greater than that, we can ignore the third pole normally. Okay, so again there are no hard and fast rules. Okay, so the accuracy of your answer depends upon the assumptions that you make, right, and its validity. So you can see here when you consider these two poles here, dominant poles, the third poles will keep moving. Okay, third pole will be somewhere here, far apart. Okay, so it should work here. Fine. So this will be the system. Now let us try one more example. Given a unity feedback system, with G of S equals K divided by S plus 2 into S plus 4 into S plus 6. Okay, it's a unity feedback system. So H of S is 1. Design the value of K to yield 10% overshoot for unit step input. Okay, design K such that 10% overshoot for unit step input, and hence we have to estimate what is peak time, settling time, and steady state error for a unit step input. Okay, so if you put this thing in the feedback configuration, what will be the order of the closed loop system? It will be third order, because S plus 2 into S plus 4 into S plus 6, it will be third order, right? So it has to be, we have to first identify where are the dominant poles. Okay, so let's draw the root locus for that. Sigma j omega. So here is -2, here is -4, and here is -6. Okay, so if you follow the root locus rules, you will see that this will be the root locus shape. Minus infinity, okay, so somewhere here will be our dominant pole, right? Now what you have to do, so you have to given some clue for finding the dominant pole. 10% overshoot. Okay, so 10% overshoot means what? E raised to minus pi zeta by root of 1 minus zeta square is 0.1. That means your zeta will be equal to how much? Zeta must be equal to 0.5911. Okay, so you are given some clue to find where are the dominant pole, right? So dominant pole will be minus zeta omega n plus minus j omega n into root of 1 minus zeta square. So that will be, real part will be minus 0.5911 omega n, and imaginary part will be how much? J 0.8065 omega n. Okay, now if this is to be on root locus, then the net angle at that point must be 180 degree. Okay, so you connect all these things with this. So this is theta 1, theta 2, theta 3. Okay, so if it's to be a dominant pole, or if it's to be a dominant closed loop pole, then the net angle at that point must be 180. So theta 1 plus theta 2 plus theta 3 must be equal to 180 degree. Plus or minus, both are one and the same. Okay, plus or minus 180 degree. If you solve this equation, as I said before, you will get your omega n as 3.4317 radians per second. Okay, 3.4317 radians per second. Right? Now, how can you find the corresponding gain K? Using the magnitude condition, 1 divided by mod GSHS at S equal to the dominant pole. So if you substitute this value into the dominant pole, what will you get? It becomes minus 2.0284 plus minus j 2.7676. Okay, so now we have to evaluate this at minus 2.0284 plus j 2.7676. And how much is that? That turns out to be 45.527. Okay, so what is the equivalent system that gives 10% overshoot? It is nothing but 45.527 divided by S plus 2.0284 plus J 2.7676 into S plus 2.0284 minus J 2.7676. Okay, this will be the closed loop system. Right? That gives the desired performance specification of 10% overshoot. Right? Now we are asked to find the peak time. What is peak time TP? Pi by omega d. What is omega d? Omega n into root of 1 minus theta square. And what is that? 2.7676. So pi by 2.7676. If you do that, you will get 1.1351 seconds. Fine. Settling time for 4% criteria, that 2% criterion will be what? 4 divided by theta omega n. Where is theta omega n? The real part of the pole. Okay, so substitute that 4 divided by 2.0284. That will be around 1.9719 seconds. Okay, now what next? We have to calculate the steady state error. Okay, what's the order of the system? System type is 0. What's the type number of the system? It is 0. The system open loop plant does not have any pole at the origin, so type number is 0. Right? So we have to find static position error constant Kp. What is Kp? Kp is limit S tends to 0 GSHs. So what is Kp? Kp is limit S tends to 0 GSHs. Okay, just substitute that and see. You will get your Kp as 0.9484. Kp will be 0.9484. So what will be steady state error? Steady state error will be 1 divided by 1 plus Kp, and that turns out to be around 0.5132. Okay, this is how to do gain compensation using root locus. Okay, so we'll stop here.